Buongiorno a tutti, siamo di nuovo qui con l'ottimo Sven Oem per capire che cosa sta succedendo, soprattutto per quanto riguarda i dazi e il rinvio che Donald Trump, diciamo, che ha concesso all'Unione Europea per decidere sui dazi che aveva in maniera sorprendente alzato già al 50% con decorrenza 1° giugno. Adesso c'è stato questo rinvio al 9 giugno, tratteremo di questo nel nuovo episodio di Europe Meets America. Qui con noi, ripeto, c'è Sven Oem, presidente della European American Business Organization. Good morning for you, Sven.
Yeah, well, it's after 12, so it's good afternoon.
It's afternoon, yes, yeah.
But it's a holiday today in the US. It's Memorial Day.
Yes.
Federal holiday.
True.
And but it's been a busy weekend, I guess, for a number of people.
Molto, very cool, very cool. So they postponed to June 9 to decide on tariffs is pending a proposal from the EU, from Ursula von der Leyen. What do you think about?
Well, I mean, everybody was shocked, at least in Europe, on Friday when they heard the president say that on June 1st, or the beginning of June, he would impose these high tariffs up to 50% on imports from Europe. And so that created some activity. Also, Prime Minister Meloni immediately called President Trump, and then he also spoke with the EU Commission President von der Leyen. And the eventual outcome was that the tariffs are not going to go into force before July 9th, which was the initially anticipated day anyway, after the 3-month period to negotiate. And the ball, I guess, in my perception, the ball to negotiate and come up with proposals for the negotiations with the Americans is now in the court of the Europeans, and they have to finally become a bit more active. There was a charge that I read a couple of times that Europe was kind of laid back and wanted to wait and see. And now I guess they have to come up with a good proposal that the Americans will be accepting or will be able to accept. And we'll see what happens. But it's probably, I think, what is important from this period and what happened over the weekend is that von der Leyen has to be much more involved.
Yes, but Sven, it seems that the EU does not want to resort to aggressive measures to impose tariffs on US products, for example, credit cards and media services like Netflix, in order not to harm its own consumers. What do you think?
Well, I mean, first of all, the tariffs initially are primarily on goods, on tangible goods, physical goods. And then what you mentioned are services, and that's another area. But that's also an area where the U.S. has a trade surplus. As far as President Trump is concerned, it's usually about where do we have a trade deficit. And there's a deficit that the EU is exporting more to the US than the US exports to Europe, as far as goods, tangible goods, physical goods are concerned. So when it comes to services, it's different. And services, the US has a surplus. So we'll have to see. It may be true that if the EU would decide to put tariffs on services that come from the US to Europe, that might have a negative effect on the US. But one really has to be careful to negotiate what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And the initial approach that I heard from some Europeans was, well, maybe we can just negotiate no tariffs at all. That's not likely to happen because the Trump administration wants to use the tariffs to reduce the trade deficit. But we'll see what the negotiations will actually lead to. The negotiations are not done by the president. There is the Secretary of Finance and the United States Trade Representative who will negotiate, and then obviously the people that work for them. So we'll have to see, and we'll probably not know immediately. They are working on it now, and I guess then they will submit it to the US. But I'm sure there will be much more of a dialogue now than in the past, and the dialogue will be at higher levels.
Thank you, Sven. Then, on my opinion, the weakness of the dollar caused by Trump's international economic policy could help the euro take on a more prominent role, in the sense that the euro could complement the dollar as a reserve currency in foreign trade. What do you think about?
Yeah, I don't really see that happening. The dollar is still by far the more important currency, and I don't see that changing. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in half a year, perhaps, but I think there will also be people in the US who will not want to see that happen. That's being watched very closely in the US by financial circles and by others. So I think there will be people who will very closely look at that. And if let's say now there was this downgrade by Moody's and by others, but if that goes any further, I guess there would be people who say, no, we have to take countermeasures. And the US is still by far the largest economy there, so that's also something to keep in mind.
Thank you. And in your opinion, should Europe integrate capital markets to promote the issuance of Eurobonds?
Well, I mean, there's still a lot of work to do in Europe when it comes to the single market. And there are many aspects that have not yet been integrated. And there's also work to be done. We'll have to see how the development of the euro is going to be. The inflation rate also will have to be watched carefully. So that's something that the ECB, the European Central Bank, will look at. I guess the one good thing is that it's today easy to communicate with each other. So these people can actually just pick up a phone or send emails or have video chats like we are doing now to communicate with each other. And for the US, the concern is that it may go into recession, and there are many people who don't want to see that happen. I mean, it would be similar to a recession in, let's say, Germany right now, where the country is in a recession, but there's still full employment. So people don't notice it as much.
Thank you, Sven. And now on the internal economic policy of Trump. What do you think about Americans who can't afford to be patient? He said he would lower prices on day one.
Well, there are a number of things he wanted to do on day one or in a day that haven't happened. So it all takes more time. He thinks that what he did so far and will continue to do will make America great again. That's his slogan.
Yes.
As you know, there are many economists who think that some of the measures are not positive and will harm people. But there is still full employment. And when he talks about he wants to bring factories to the US, the question is, where will he find the people who work there? Because the people who are employed now are people who can be employed, who are qualified. So the remainder of the people that are not employed are probably people who in principle are unemployable because they're not qualified. So the question is, who's going to work in the factories?
Yes, about that, and on the decision about on Apple products.
Well, that's a decision that obviously Apple has to make. And I'm sure that there are discussions going on that we are not aware of. But what I've seen is that Apple has also said the phone would be much more expensive if it was made in the US. And that has to do with the fact that they will have to build a new factory from scratch, highly automated, there's no question, because you don't have the people. It's the same as in a number of European countries. You don't have qualified workers.
Yes.
And in some countries, you are trying desperately to bring people in from the outside. And I guess for a while, the hope was the refugees coming from countries like Syria and others, they would be qualified enough to fill the jobs, but that is only limited cases true. So it is really, it's very similar in the US and in most parts of Europe that there are not enough qualified workers who can actually work in factories and in new factories, which means that the factories have to be highly automated. And that is maybe something that the Trump administration or Trump himself has not considered to the extent that it should be considered.
Yes, I agree. And one word about Harvard situation.
The decision by the Trump administration, and primarily by him, has been now brought to the courts. The courts have said, no, they can continue to bring foreign students to the U.S. And so we'll see. I mean, it's a court case, and obviously similar to the way the court system is structured in Europe, there are different levels, and you have to work your way up to in the end, maybe to the Supreme Court.
Yes, now I see a post on X. Obama's kid got into Harvard, and Trump's kid wasn't smart enough to get in. That's why he is so upset. It's a joke or not?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard about that. That maybe a reason, but I wouldn't be so sure about that. I mean, there are many Ivy League universities on the East Coast, and very good universities. So we'll have to see. But the fact is that it's now going to be reviewed by the courts, and the first court has said no, they can continue to come, the foreigners. The case that you mentioned, there was no foreigner involved, so it's sometimes you don't really know what is the driving force behind these decisions. I mean, Trump himself was at the Wharton School of Business in Pennsylvania, which is also a very highly valued university. So I don't really know what's behind it in detail. There are issues at some universities about the way how the Jewish people are treated, and that plays into it to some extent. That was an issue here at Columbia in New York, and right now I think that has to be somewhat resolved, but it also and will continue to see presidents of universities resign for various reasons, and that may make the leadership of universities somewhat weaker.
Thank you very much. Come avete visto, Sven oggi di che cosa ha parlato? Ha parlato di una situazione che riguarda molto da vicino l'Europa e ha mosso le sue osservazioni, no? Per me molto condivisibili, proprio sulla lentezza, no? E un po' di confusione anche, no? Che c'è in Europa nel muoversi per reagire a questa politica aggressiva di Trump, senza nulla togliere alla tanta confusione che già Trump sta creando. Bene, I appreciate your speech as always.
Yeah.
And I thank you and have a great Memorial Day.
Thank you very much, and see you soon. I think there will be
See you soon. Yes. See you soon.
more interesting things happen.
See you soon. Thank you, Sven. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.